Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Just a video to discuss and point out how important it is to use genuine parts and why, and some of the examples of things we see and hear about. More we hear about than see, because we only use and recommend brand new genuine parts. So let's talk about some of those different components. Might just change lanes again actually, because it's all happening with them coming on there, so we'll get out of their way, even though we kind of need to be over there for the next exit, but I'm sure it'll sort itself out, or someone will cut in front of us somewhere. Genuine parts, right? So you've got a Toyota, it's a quality vehicle, awesome engineering and design. They put a lot into testing these vehicles. I don't know how they do it, but they're awesome vehicles. Now, as soon as something does need replacing, and that generally happens because things don't last forever. Not everything lasts, some things do. But at the end of the day, to keep it simple, just think everything came from the earth and everything is going back to the earth. The earth wants it back, okay? So it's not going to last forever. It's got to deteriorate, and then we move on from it, we get rid of it, we get a new one, or we replace it. And you think about where those components end up, they'll end up one way or the other back in the earth, you know, whether we bury it at a tip or not. But anyway, that's another story. Got you thinking though, didn't it? Hope so. Got me thinking. So look, parts. Obviously your normal service parts and stuff like that, genuine is usually best. Some components, it doesn't really matter too much what you do or don't use, if you know what I mean, because, you know, e.g. it might be an air filter that's been copied. It's just a paper element, and as long as it seals, etc., it's gonna do the job. But then you've got to take into account, you know, genuine's got that pre-foam filter on there, which you could sort of say it doesn't do much, but you know, if it stops some of the particles getting to the next main filter, then it's going to help with the efficiency of that and help keep that clean, isn't it? And it's kind of like a separate filter, the way it's sort of glued on there. It is like a pre-filter, but in no way does it sort of it's coarse enough that it doesn't affect the flow of the final filter, but enough to pick up some of that mess, absolutely, because, you know, we see that, we know that's what it does. They get quite black, so seems to work well. I do prefer to stick with those, okay? So there's one for Toyota. All your other normal service parts, you know, I mean, I prefer genuine filters. For the cost of the filter, for how long it lasts, it's not that much, okay? The aftermarket stuff, I'm sure mostly oil filters would be okay, but why risk it for the sort of money we're talking about? You paid for the Toyota in the first place, so you may as well, as they kind of say, keep the feeling. I'm sort of with that. Now, the normal service stuff, I suppose, doesn't matter too much. I've said before, I don't mind that rear fuel filter if you want to use an aftermarket one. The one under the bonnet, I prefer the genuine. But when we get into other components and where people have been caught out, where it gets fairly costly in parts and labour, it's things like, let's talk about the front lower control arms. So eventually they do need to be replaced, okay? So, or the bushes. So you can either do the parts and the extra labour, or you can just replace the whole arm, in which case it comes with a ball joint. It comes, you know, genuine bushes, you know, genuine arm comes with genuine bushes and everything. So, and obviously factory fitted, so you don't have any of those issues. There can be some issues with removing and refitting bushes into those arms, because depending how you do it, the arm can get bent, and if it's in kind of the wrong position, and allows those bushes, they're not quite secure, because they're not a full interference fit. It's only the last approximately, I don't know, 7 or 8 millimeters that is that pressed interference fit that holds it in, and they're really hard to get out, sometimes almost impossible, depending again on your tools and equipment what you've got set up to do that. Certainly not an ideal DIY job, I don't think. So the new arm, so then you've got, so on eBay, I haven't checked lately, but on eBay last time I checked, you could buy, I think it was that For Best brand, and I went, oh yeah, maybe they're okay, because it's got best in it, For Best. Maybe it's a trick, I don't know. $129 a side. I don't know if that was delivered or not, or the delivery's extra if they've gone up. Like I said, it was a while ago, just browsing. So it's like, what do? Well, you do your research. We never used or tried any of those, but we found people that had, and our opinion up until then was kind of, well, basically stick with what you know. If they last, look, and I'll tell you the averages for the front lower control arms, you're talking around about 250 to 300,000 Ks is your average time where you might need to replace them. As I said in other videos, it all depends how you drive the car, how they're looked after, and the setup as to whether they're going to need replacing or not. Many cars go for longer, they don't need replacing. Some cars fail prematurely, so it's just what it is. But in doing that research, we find people that have tried the cheaper bushes, the other options, and excuse me, I'm yawning here, I'm keeping myself awake. Basically, I've had feedback from people saying, yeah, kind of, you were right, I'll stick with a genuine next time. I went and tried these, and it doesn't really matter about what brands, whether it was those or others or whatever, but they've tried other brands, whether it's, you know, cheaper Chinese brands, whatever the case may be. And when I say Chinese, I mean, there's just a lot of Chinese product out there, and quite a lot of it is not up to scratch. It's not the standard, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't really matter what brand it is. So it just comes down to, you know, are you prepared to, you know, you want to save some money and do the job every 40,000 Ks, and of course it's going to be labour intensive whether you're doing it or you're paying someone, so you do it again and again, or are you just going to put genuine in again? You know what I mean? So I hope that's a good example of where genuine will cost more, but it doesn't really cost more if it's right for another 250, 300,000 Ks. If you change them at 300,000 and you put Chinese bushes in, or arms, and they cost you $300 instead of $1,000 or something, and you got to do them every 40,000, well, they're not cheaper, are they? Okay? It's like brake pads, you know? We like Bendix, and it's an Australian company, and some stuff's here made in Australia here, not everything. They get some components from China. You'd have to check for yourself what the facts are on those, but love to support Bendix in an Australian made product, like an all Australian made product. But unfortunately on the Prados, the rear pads, we know they wear down quicker than the genuines. Now the problem with the genuines that we've used is they seem to squeal a lot, so that's another problem, particularly when cold mainly. So in fairness, having another yawn, keeping myself awake, like I said, one of those days. So it doesn't matter about the brake pads too much, it's more those arms. Now let's look at some other things. Those on the Prados, or Hiluxes for that matter, pretty much similar setup as far as the bearing goes and whatever. We only use genuine because we tried the Chinese option, okay? The bearing shops, you know, the awesome bearing shops that want to sell you stuff, it's like any other business, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, unfortunately a lot of businesses, they just want to sell you what they buy the cheapest, that they can get the right money out of you still. It's all about margin, and that's where things, you know, I said things are just not always going to work out. This can't go on, and look what's happened anyway. Let's not get sidetracked. Look what's happened, okay? How's that working out for you? But anyway, so you need to stick with quality brands, right? Japanese made, funnily enough, the OEM Toyota brands are really good. So front hubs, we thought, you know, they said, oh yeah mate, you know, we sell thousands, I've never had one come back, you know. Same thing they might say to you. So we go, well, you're the experts in bearings, let's give one a try. Well, short period of time later, noise, and when it was removed and inspected, lots of black grease had come out everywhere. Not so good, is it? So that's where we learnt the lesson and definitely stuck back to genuine. Only took one example, and there's been a number of other people that have basically found out the hard way as well and come back to us going, yeah, you're right, you know, just stick with genuine. And there's one that just came to my mind right now, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I didn't see the pictures clearly and correctly, but there's going to be some more bad news there, and hopefully with luck they just last long enough that it works out value for money wise, and they don't mind changing them out every year or two. But Genuine is the go with the front wheel bearings. Now, moving on to the timing belt water pump kit, all that sort of thing, you know, we supply the timing belt water pump, you know, with the drive belt, the bearings and all that. Let's talk about that one. Okay, so G&B Water Pumps is a well-known Australian brand of, not Australian, sorry, what I meant to say was Australian, known well in Australia, well used by Australian businesses. It's a known brand, okay? They're made in Japan, so you go, oh yeah, Japan quality. I don't really have an issue with their water pumps, but I have seen them leaking, but then I've seen, you know, the genuine ones leak as well, if you know what I mean. So what do, you know? Genuine leaks, aftermarket leak, you know, you get that. That's, you know, it's how they are. They leak. Water pumps leak. That's what you got to understand. Now, what I like about the genuine one, maybe it leaks less. I'm not sure about that. The main thing is the gasket. 100% on the aftermarket gaskets, it seems to be the case that you have trouble and a time waster scraping these paper gaskets off the surfaces, right? Where with the genuine one, with the genuine real McCoy Toyota Aisin or Aisin, however you want to say, I don't really care, water pump, it's got, like all the other gaskets Toyota use. When I say all, I'm being general. They're all metal gaskets, steel gaskets, stainless steel, whatever the case may be, and they've got a coating over them and they work really well. They don't leak. You could probably reuse a lot of them, and I'm not telling you to do that's not what this is about, but just trying to point out how good they are. You could probably reuse them. They're really good quality. They're easy to clean. They peel right off. There's nothing left to clean really, if you know what I mean. So basically, that's the deal with the water pump, okay? Genuine or original OEM. With the other parts in the kit. Timing belt. Well, Toyota say 150,000 Ks. Right. We see them in really good condition at 150,000 Ks. So of course, for the money, what are we going to use? We're going to use the genuine or the original OEM manufacturer product. Same with the bearings. We're going to use the original brands or the genuine Toyota parts. Same with the tensioner. You know, NTN is the tensioner, so you can use an NTN or you can use the genuine Toyota, which is an NTN. Careful of your aftermarket brands, because sometimes the kits have got those things and then they change later to the cheaper Chinese brands to make more money. Profiteering, okay? Greed. Anyway, then let's move on to the next thing. You've got drive belts. There's aftermarket drive belts, Gates, Dayco, whatever, and they're pretty well-known names in the industry, like the G&B water pumps and stuff like that. But I just don't see them in it. The vehicles that come in that have got Dayco or G&B belts, I've got to say I'm disappointed, because they've been replaced since new. So all the belts I see that come in genuine, even when they're old, they look in pretty good condition. We don't see them, the deterioration of that main drive belt isn't the problem, okay? When we see them, they've been replaced, they certainly haven't been on for as long as you know, the replacement item, you know, hasn't been on for as long as the real McCoy, the genuine one, and then not in as good condition, sort of thing. So basically, not so awesome, if you know what I mean. I'd rather just have the genuine one. So why do I replace the drive belt? There's a belt tension gauge, right? What am I saying? Not a belt tension. There's a gauge. There's an indicator. Belt tension indicator is the word that I'm looking for, that shows you there's a range that drive belt should be in, because it's got an automatic tensioner, right? So basically, it should be within a range. It shouldn't be below that or over that, right? So you can look at that and check it, or you can take my word for it. When you replace your timing belt, you replace your drive belt, okay, every 150,000 Ks. We don't see them deteriorated. That's not the reason why. They stretch, okay? And is it going to be okay by 300,000 Ks? You know, again, for the money, you just replace it. And while you've got everything off, of course, you do the bearings. Why do you do the bearings? You do the bearings because the lower one, the big bearing, the main one on the tensioner of the main drive belt, that's the one that can let people down. We hear from people, you know, once it's more to do with the mud equals money thing, you know, because that's the one that's down low, right? It's down low. When you go in muddy water and that, you know, the grit and the mud, that's what gets in the bearings and wears and makes them noisy. Now the ones up top, they can get a bit noisy once they get a few Ks on it. And generally, we've never seen one or heard of one failing the top lock. They can just be a bit noisy and annoying, and you can have some funny noises in there. That if you want to eliminate those, you want to have the bearings replaced. That's why we call it a big front engine job, because it covers every bearing on the front of the engine, other than your alternator. And we'll get to alternators, we will. But maybe not in this video, because I don't want to make it too long. Those people that are with me, awesome. Please give me the thumbs up if you found it helpful. But I'm going to keep going. Got a little bit more to go. Okay. I hope you get the picture. Big front engine job. You get the picture of that. That's what that's all about. So every bearing is in the kit that we supply. They're all either genuine parts or OEM. Now, when I say OEM, we will source a bearing of the exact manufacturing type and part number of what Toyota use, even if you're not meant to be able to buy it separately. Wink, wink. And supply that in the kit so that you can do that job. Because with that tensioner from Toyota, you got to buy the whole tensioner. It's like $400 or $500. It's a big job to change it. You know, people get quoted. The ones that get caught out in stuck places that I hear from, they're up for $1,000 bill sort of thing. So for the sake of well under $1,000 worth of parts to do the whole big front engine job, you've just made yourself reliable. The whole job's done instead of getting caught out all because of one bearing, right? So I think that covers all the bearings. It's really important. Genuine or OEM bearings, that's what I'm talking about. So basically that covers that. What else we got? Okay, injectors, the injector kit. So what do we got there? We're only ever going to be using either brand new genuine Toyota product or brand new genuine fresh Denso product, which Denso is the product that's made. It's made by Denso for Toyota, right? That's what they are, one and the same. Got me? Okay, it's all the same. That's your genuine parts. Okay. You're probably going to get fresher stock by getting Denso stock, because Toyota stock's a little bit dearer again, and it probably doesn't turn over as fast. So you may at times end up with older stock. You just want the fresher stock with the latest upgrades, and that's why we get regular fresh stock from a number of different suppliers. Genuine pipes, all genuine parts through there. You know, quality rubber. I'll give you an example. The valve cover gaskets. They don't leak. You know, I see them 10 years old. They're still nice and soft and pliable, and I'll go as far as to say you could probably get away without replacing it on a vehicle that's under 10 years old, okay? But the problem is, you might want it to last another 10 years. So what does that mean? We're going to replace it, because we don't know. Look, I'll tell you, by about 15 years, I do know, okay? By about 15 years, they do start to go a bit firmer. Now, I don't see them leaking. If you've got a leak, off topic a bit, but while we're at it, if you've got a leak at the rocket cover gasket, the valve cover, it's going to be either cracked, maybe by luck or maybe by workmanship. It's either going to be cracked, or it's going to be those top seals either damaged or not clean, and when grit gets underneath them, okay, it holds the seal up and it allows it to sweat a little bit. So they're your two leaks generally, okay? Now, injector kit, what else is in there? Some examples, you know, like all the seals and stuff. You know, we know the genuine ones leak and don't work, so why the hell would we go to using non-genuine to save a few bucks when you know, it's an unknown? And for what we've seen over the last couple of decades or so in the automotive industry and using aftermarket parts, you know, not picking on Repco or Bursons or Supercheap or whatever, but that's what their stuff is, right? You got me? That's what their stuff is. They want to buy at the best prices. You know, it's all about markups and profits, and it's good they give people jobs and stuff. But it's times like this where they should be looking into their profits and just keeping the people on anyway. And that goes for a lot of businesses. I had to say, I couldn't help myself, could I? You know what I mean? Businesses should plan ahead for these things, and don't be so greedy. You've made so much profits, just share some back to the people. It's not for the rest of your life. It's just over the next few weeks or few months or so on, you know, on varying and adjustable levels. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, cheap, you get what you pay for. So if you go and buy aftermarket stuff, and there's been some problems, like for example, those washers under the injectors. One particular brand, I won't even bother saying it, most people know what I'm talking about. There was a point in time where they supplied them with brass washers underneath. Brass is rock hard. It's intrinsically harder than, if I can even say it, intrinsically harder than copper. Copper's nice and soft and pliable. We're not going to go off topic, but genuine is copper with the coating over it. They last ages if the correct procedures are used, as per what we demonstrate in our videos in the VIP group. So, you know, injectors, whether it's injectors, pipes, all your seals and gaskets, your other gaskets, all your bits and pieces, you want to stick to genuine. Okay. You know, there's some brands out there that obviously aren't genuine, but there's a lot of trusted brands, you know, brands that have been around a long time. And I mentioned things like Gates and Dayco and GMB, and they're pretty well trusted brands. And it's kind of like, you know, Ryco was probably one of the biggest in Australia. I'm not saying it's an Australian brand. They used to be an Australian brand, and they used to be made in Australia. They used to be made down there in Tottenham, okay? I know people that used to work there, but, you know, they had to go and get them made cheaper. So it's not where, you know, we couldn't do it. It's, you know, it should have just stuck to, that's the option, right? Maybe they needed to have a separate company with another brand for people who wanted the cheap rubbish, so that the Aussies could support the Australian product if they wanted to. And every country, I'm not, you know, let's not be racist about it. Every country should be fairly self-sufficient. Not every country, of course, but, you know, and have the basics. And if they had it, always keep it, not lose that, you know what I mean? So anyway, back on topic, how important it is to use genuine parts. I hope you're getting my drift, okay? The Toyota and the genuine, and then there's some brands, that's what I was getting at, some brands that you can trust, like NGK spark plugs. They're one of the top ones that always come to mind for me, that I would trust their spark plugs, right? Another good brand of spark plugs is Denso. Denso spark plugs are, you know, and we already talked about Denso. Denso make good products. It's quality stuff and whatever, you know. But a bit, it's what it is. Important to use genuine parts. What else can I say about it, you know? Beware of the Chinese, there's a lot of Chinese copies out there, so if you're shopping on eBay, watch out for that. If you're going into these stores that typically stock stuff like that, well, you're not a professional, you're not an expert, you don't look at these things every day, beware where you buy this stuff. Sometimes the suppliers don't even know. They're big businesses, they don't spend that much time on it. I assure you, the only thing you're ever going to get from me is brand new, genuine, you know, unless we're talking about something like, you know, if we include a tube of, you know, Ultra Grey or something like that, obviously it's not genuine. Well, it's genuine Loctite or Permatex. Again, a couple of other brands that we trust to make consistent quality products, you know, like the Molykote, you know, that's Dow Corning. Do we trust them? You know what else they did? They made the boob implants, right, that leaked and caused problems. So I think now we're paying for it in the Molykote in the price, because it's very expensive stuff. I'll tell you what, they're making some money there, but we like it. It's so easy to use in a tube, and you can cap it. It's going to last you a lifetime. You can use it on so many jobs. Again, going off topic, here I am, so I won't tell you what you can. Should I tell you? Please tell me in the comments whether I should have kept going and told you all the uses I could think of Molykote, or whether I shouldn't have. I look forward to seeing those. I just want to get some feedback from you guys to know whether I'm doing it right or not, okay? So I'm going to tell you some quick uses. So, top uses for Molykote: we use it on the O-rings on the injectors, we use it on O-rings on fuel filters, we use it on the O-ring on the MAF sensor, right? MAF sensor, you know what I mean? The MAF sensor, not the MAP. Let's not get mixed up between the MAP and the MAF, right? Let's just talk about it. Should I do this? The MAF sensor, mass airflow, is on the airbox. Think about it, mass airflow, airbox, right? MAP filter is manifold absolute pressure. That's the little grey filter. We include that with the injector kit. We recommend you change it approximately every 3 or 4 years. You can clean them, but you've got to be careful you don't damage them. It's all in other videos. I keep saying watch the other videos. So when you're done here, you can go and search on our channel MAF filter, or MAF jeez, I'm going to confuse you, aren't I? MAP filter, and see what that's all about. Now, while we're at it, I want to say one other thing. What was I going to say? I just thought of something else. You got to be careful who you listen to, okay? This is really important. You can listen to me, or you can listen to someone else, or you can try and listen to a number of different people. It's going to get confusing because there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of people are giving the wrong information, and I can tell you now. So if you've got your brains and you're fairly wise and you've been around a while, I think you can figure out with the evidence, and that's why I try and show you and demonstrate. I haven't demonstrated much today. Some people said I like the driving video, so here I am, killing two birds with one stone. I had to go out, so here we are, getting this done for you at the same time, right? So, bada bing. It was mainly about how important it is to use genuine parts. A lot of people get let down. A lot of people come back to me. They don't always publicly say it because they're embarrassed. You know, I wish I'd done that. You were right, this sort of thing. But whatever. None of that really matters. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you can learn the easy way or the hard way. I'm trying to tell you now, right? It costs a bit more, but you get it right the first time. Same as by being in the VIP group, right? You get to watch the videos and get it right the first time. The injector job, for example, it's something, a lot of people's injectors haven't been touched for 10 years. Now, I'm going to tell you they're going to last longer than 10 years. They might. You've got to just take the averages and the variables, and we've got to watch these things. But they might, let's say 5 to 10 years, maybe close to 10. It's a job that's got to be right for the next 5 to 10 years. So don't you want to make sure you got it right the first time? Don't rush into it and do the job till you watch the videos. Yeah, you've done 10 of these, no problem, or you've done 100. Good on you, okay? There's things we learn after doing these for years before we, I suppose, know and learn all the things we know now, which I think I've got it. We won't say perfected because we're certainly not perfect, but I want to say I think we've got it perfected. I kind of want to say that, but I'm going to say, look, hopefully it's just excellent. We strive for excellence, okay? We don't expect to be perfect. We're always learning, but it'll be helpful for you guys if you watch those videos thoroughly. And I always say you only retain 10% of what you see, read, and hear, this sort of thing. So read it twice, read it 3 times, listen a few times. There's a number of injector replacement videos. Watch them all if you can before you get in there. Okay? Genuine parts, guys. Only way to be. Keep the feeling, you know, that Toyota feeling where they jump in the air, keep the feeling. You know, they say the O2 advantage with the air filter and stuff like that. Well, maybe that's right, I don't know. What you got to be careful of is the marketing fluff and goo. There's a lot of marketing fluff and goo, you know, where they just sort of, you can pick the difference between marketing and real information with demonstrations of why, can't you? So hopefully you can. 27 minutes, guys, that's ages. Let's call it a day at that. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I hope there was some awesome info there. I know no demonstration, but I hope you're enjoying the scenery. It's just going to get better and better from here. Alright guys, have a nice day. See ya.